Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's review, I'm taking a look at Fulcrum Leader, Soviet Frontal Aviation, designed by Benjamin Chee and Doug Glover and published by DVG. This review copy was provided by DVG. Fulcrum Leader is a solitaire wargame that places you in command of a squadron of Soviet aircraft during the Cold War. You will fly individual missions that, when interconnected, make up one of 10 campaigns included in the core box, ranging from historical conflicts such as the Soviet-Afghan War to hypothetical Warsaw Pact versus NATO in Europe. You'll manage your aircraft, pilots, and ordnance, all while attempting to destroy different targets and keep your political officer happy. Let's do a quick overview. I have multiple playthroughs as well as a tutorial of how to set up a campaign, so check those out for in-depth. I'll cover my pros and cons, and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, let's get on the table. All right, I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of Fulcrum Leader and Leader games in general. If you have ever played a Leader game, you can probably skip most of this, although I will talk a little bit about how Fulcrum Leader is different than other Leader games, although I will also mention those differences within my pros, cons, and final thoughts. So it's up to you whether you want to watch all this. Okay, so starting off in a Leader game, generally speaking, you are going to pick a campaign. The core game, and I'm looking at the core box for this review, has 10 campaigns ranging from 70s to 80s. The different campaigns occur in Europe, Afghanistan, East Asia. There's a variety of them. What you're doing is you're picking one. So just for example's sake and to describe it, let's go ahead and look at this preempting NATO campaign. It takes place Germany, 1984. It tells you we must strike before NATO can deploy the new Pershing missile in significant numbers, upsetting the delicate balance of nuclear forces in Europe. On the campaign sheet, there's a bunch of key information here. At the top left, you have the map of the area. So this is the historical map. You have East Germany, strikes leading into West Germany. Each of these numbers here is a target card. We'll talk about them shortly. Within those numbers, or the numbers are inside of different shapes, circles, squares, or diamonds. Those indicate the amount of stress your pilots automatically gain by going on that mission and going after that target. In addition, there's usually going to be dotted lines, and then it's going to tell you weight WP 0, which means weight points. And then you have, say, over here, past this dotted line, WP -2. So basically that means your aircraft will have -2 weight points. So they'll be able to carry 2 less weight points worth of armaments. And no GCI. GCI is the ground control intercept. So think of the radar sites that are and command and control guiding Soviet aircraft to their target, whether it be bandits, sites, whatever it may be. Looking at the right here, you have standard weapons. Those are different munitions that you can select for your aircraft without any special cost. There's special weapons. Those are ones you have to purchase with special option or SO points. You'll be given a certain amount of those based on the campaign length you select. Threat, that is going to be the sight and bandit cup that you fill up with sight and bandits. Then looking at campaigns down here, you have short, medium, and long. That's the days and number of SO points you get, and then a VP chart seeing how well you do at the very end. The length of it, like I said, determines days. That's how many days you have to fly various missions. SO points, so special option points, you get to spend on upgraded aircraft, special weapons. There's going to be costs for things along the way, special purchase you may want to make to help reduce stress, etc. And then on the bottom of the campaign track, there's going to be, or campaign sheet, there's these tracks. Loyalty track, which is tied to the Zampolit, which is your commissar political officer, which is a new feature in Fulcrum Leader. Intel controls adding or taking away bandits or sites when you're going against your target. Info, which is infrastructure. The farther right it is, the less hits you have to inflict on whatever target you choose. And Ops has different changes for U.S. Air Defense, NATO activates conscripts, USAF Rapid Response Force, blah, blah, blah. Just changes different things all the way up to NATO nuclear escalation. Each campaign is going to tell you what aircraft you get. so continuing to look at preemptive NATO campaign. Tells you the difficulty, which is just sort of the average idea of how hard the campaign is to complete. And then aircraft, it'll tell you either specific types of aircraft or in this case, all by year. Remember, this campaign is Germany, 1984. So all aircraft that were in service as of 1984. So looking at the aircraft here, and these are all the aircraft from the core game that you can select for your pilots, and these are not squadron assets or support aircraft. You have MiG-21 Fishbed, you have MiG-23 Flogger, MiG-29 Fulcrum A, there's also the MiG-29 Fulcrum C, Su-17 Fitter, Su-24 Fencer, Su-27 Flanker. And should put those MiG-29 Cs out, huh? All right, so key to remember though is that I mentioned year, right? Well, if you look on the side of a aircraft card, it's going to have years of service there. If that year takes place, the first year is after the campaign start, you can't pick it. If it does take place that year or earlier, you can select them. So all these aircraft would be selectable for this campaign other than the Su-27 Flanker, because you can see the start year was 1985, and the MiG-29 Fulcrum C, because the start year in service was 1986. So you wouldn't be able to select these two. Instead, you could select from these aircraft to be part of your squadron in your campaign. When you're selecting your aircraft / pilots, they're synonymous, you are building out according to the skill level in the corner based on length of campaign, tells you how many you can have of newbie, green, average, skilled, or veterans. You're going to select them, and then some aircraft, because they are older, less capable, you'll actually gain SO points by selecting them. The number is for short, medium, or long campaign. Or you will have to spend or pay SOs. So for instance, the S-24 Fencer, it's a very capable aircraft. So you actually pay 4, 8, or 12 to select one of these, again, depending on the length of your campaign. Along with your aircraft, when you go on your missions, which again, we'll talk about those in a second here, you are going to outfit your aircraft with munitions, right? Generally speaking, there's two types. There's air-to-air and air-to-ground. The campaign sheet has a list of all the different types of weapons, standard and special, you can select. A couple examples would be these two anti-air, air-to-air missiles. That's why they have the yellow stripe, just as a little bit of a reminder. You would have these, and looking at them, you have their weight point cost in the top left, or if they're special weapons, that would also be the cost in SO points. Name on the side, a little picture of the actual missile from history. The top right number is going to be its 2-hit number. The game is D10 based, as all leader games are. The number in black is the max range, and the HL is can it be used at high altitude or low altitude, or in the case of these anti-aircraft missiles, both. And then you have, say, these two ground attack weapons, so air to ground. So when you're bombing something, you have a Fab 500, that is a 500 kilogram unguided dumb bomb, iron bomb. And then you have a KH-25, that is a guided missile. The top left, again, is the weight cost and SO point cost if it's a special weapon. Name of it, picture, top right for number to hit. With multiple numbers, it can cause multiple hits. So if you were to roll a 10, dropping an Fab 500, you would get 3 hits. And the letters are going to be special sort of keywords, unguided, range of 0, can only be dropped at low altitude. KH-25 being a guided missile, it +3 against vehicles, can be dropped or shot off at high or low altitude, and it has a range of 2 areas, not just 1. When you are, because you have your pilots, you have the things you need to do, well, what are you doing? You're going against targets, right? So the numbers I'd mentioned earlier on the map are all the different target numbers. Those numbers in your target cards, the top right. And you're going to find them, tank column, mechanized forces, TBM launchers, divisional air support, frontal air support, etc. What those are doing, aircraft dispersal, you're looking at the target number to see where it is. You only select the ones for your campaign that are listed on the sheet or on the bottom right here. You build out, you draw from it. You are picking targets to go on, missions to go on, right? Basically, you're picking probably what you think you'll be most successful at. Looking at a card right here, you can see the number in the top right. You can see the number of aircraft you're allowed in the top left. Some information. You're going to have the number of sites and bandits that appear in each approach area and center area, the amount of hits you must inflict on that particular target, and if successful and you destroy it, how many victory points you earned, and any adjustments to those tracks, loyalty, intel, infrastructure. There's going to be keywords at the bottom. This is a dispersed target. It's an improvement, means it stays there. All targets get +1 center bandit while this target is still alive or still around. It's fixed, and it's a secondary target, meaning you can have a primary and secondary target in the same day. As long as one of them is secondary, you can go after that one. When you've chosen your mission, you are setting it up on this tactical display. Nice hard-mounted tactical display, by the way. Placing the target in the center area, and depending on how the sequence of play goes, you are at some point or another going to have your aircraft that you have already picked out. You have equipped them with weapons, whether it's air-to-air, air-to-ground. You will figure out depending on the target. The strategic airfield here, you do 9 hits on it. You can bring up to 6 aircraft. You're going to want a whole bunch of your pilots, a big part of your squadron. There's going to be multiple sites in approaches and centers. You're drawing them from the cup, as I mentioned earlier, right? And so you're putting, no sight on that one, but then, this one is going to be light anti-aircraft, another light anti-aircraft, man pad, etc. You're drawing for approaches, you're drawing in the center area, and then bandits. So you're looking at, F-16A, right? There's some F-16A here in the center. There's F-16 in the south approach, etc. You're drawing out for each of the areas. And that is the obstacles your squadron, your pilots are going to have to face on their way to the target to destroy it. You'll start them off at the standoff area. You'll have counters. You select their altitude. As the turns go by, you're going to be moving them closer. You're going to be firing at bandits. You're going to be getting over sites, firing at sites, or avoiding them, depending on your altitude, depending on your aircraft, depending on your mission, depending on if you get bonuses for destroying a certain number of sites or not. There's a variety when it comes to that gameplay. As this is all happening, you're going to be dealing with random events that are going to be occurring. We're drawing from this event deck multiple times a mission. Things like combined arms attack. Now, there's on your way to the mission, over the mission, and then on your way home. So that you're going to draw a new card each time. So there's going to be 3 different events that happen for every time. Something like bad weather, not good. Subtract 2 from your anti-ground or air-to-ground die rolls at high altitude. Rotate approach areas by 1 area clockwise. Approach area sites, inflict 1 stress on each pilot flying this mission on the way home. So again, depending on what stage they are. Don't rush the horses. Mass rocket artillery. Destroy any one side of your choice as you're approaching it. That one's nice. You like that one, right? So, variety of different events. The game also, in this Fulcrum Leader, you are selecting the Zampolit, the commissar, the political officer. That will be one of your, and just as you would normally select a commanding officer or flight leader, this is a pilot, a full pilot you use on your missions, you select. Try to keep them alive, but also there's going to be a Zampolit deck. So at the very beginning of the daily operations phase or sequence of play, you're going to check this. It's going to tell you something, Party Scion. I am sure you understand how important it is for Comrade Chairman's son to win a glorious victory for the motherland. Now it's going to tell you, randomly select 1 pilot who is not shaken or unfit. This pilot must be assigned to the primary mission. If the mission is successful, move loyalty 2 to the right. Fantastic. If the pilot is destroyed, move loyalty 2 to the left. Not so good. So just another aspect of sort of adding that flavor. Soviet Union, political officer, will also give you a little randomness and a little, you never know what exactly is going to happen. Some are okay, some are not bad. That one was not I wouldn't call that a good one. So just another aspect to the game. You fly your missions, you've 1 or 2 a day, generally speaking. You go through your days, you complete a campaign, add up your victory points, check to see how you did in the campaign, and probably go back, set it up, and do it again, or switch to one of the other 9 campaigns that come in the base game. All right, that was a quick and dirty. I didn't even describe necessarily like the aircraft, all the different stuff on the aircraft. It's okay. Watch, I have a couple playthroughs of this game and many other playthroughs of previous Leader games. The combat is all very similar. It's the same engine that drives it, right, from those games to this game. This one just has different flavors, different theme as part of it, which I will describe here as I get into my pros, cons, and final thoughts. So again, watch those other videos if you want an in-depth playthrough and to see how the game works. Otherwise, I think that is it for the overview. So let's go to the pros and cons. As always, cons first. All right. My first issue with the game is there's definitely more errata popping up than I expected with these two designers. They're very active on Board Game Geek. They're very active on Facebook. I thought the game would maybe have a little be touched more developed. I know DVG has battled the errata bug in general, with some games being very well developed and others needing immediate corrections. Fulcrum Leader, it probably falls somewhere in the middle, although it's definitely not broken. It doesn't have a lot of severe errata or mistakes. However, there are some mistakes and omissions in the rulebook, on the player aids, and some of the campaign sheets. Examples are the new sequence of play flowchart that's in the rulebook and it also comes on a separate player aid. It is missing some steps, and I think maybe something is out of order as well. The rulebook gives wrong instructions on where to place the loyalty counter on the campaign track here. So it tells you places to the left, pointing to the right. No, it actually starts on where it says start, but the rulebook, that's not what the rulebook says, so it does throw you off there. The instructions on when and how to apply the effects on the loyalty track, it's actually missing from the rulebook. And there is clarification needed on angle of attack counters and how to set up the sight bandit cups for some of the campaigns. The good news is the designers, as I mentioned, they're very active online and they're quick to answer questions. In fact, they've already released a clarifications and errata document, and that's much appreciated. However, it is unfortunate that it's needed, and it's something I think it's only fair to talk about and only fair for me to mention. The second con is, while the variety of components is a bonus, and I'll definitely talk about that in my pros, because of that, the large quantity of cards and counters, setting up a campaign can get a little tedious at first. Figuring out what aircraft are eligible, sorting them out, same with all the air-to-ground and air-to-air weapon systems, separating enemy bandits and sites that are in your campaign, building the target deck, etc. Once everything is set up, the game plays fast. Just be aware you're not going to be able to open the box, set up a new campaign and play a quick mission. You're not going to be able to get that done in half an hour, right? That's not this type of game. You're going to need as much time to set up your campaign and missions as it takes to play a mission. And you're probably going to want to leave Fulcrum Leader set up overnight or for days or even weeks. It's not a problem for me with my setup, but I know not everyone has that luxury, so just be aware of it. Finally, I do want to comment on the difficulty. Fulcrum Leader just feels easier than a lot of other Leader games I've played. Now, I've learned over the years, everyone plays games differently. Some focus on game-breaking strategies, right? Trying to crack the game and defeat the system, right? Others play it a little bit more casualty, that's a Freudian slip, right? Play it more casually to enjoy the experience and the history a game generates. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, but probably leaning more towards, the experience and the history of a game. In the case of those two different people, they will give you two very different opinions on the game, on the same game. Regardless, in my experience of playing several campaigns and many missions against different targets, it almost always felt like I had really good control of the situation. The addition of the ground control intercept cards and squadron assets, which I'm going to talk about in a second, will very much appreciate it as they enrich the game and really give you, you a nice boost, are going to basically just be positives that are going to make you more and more powerful. The more that you have of that, the stronger you get. There's no negatives to having them whatsoever. You're going to gain pluses to hit against ground targets, against air targets, the ability to avoid negative events or hits on your aircraft, etc. I do think it'd be pretty easy to adjust the game to make it more difficult just be aware going in, especially if you're a veteran of leader games like I am and many of you are, you may find yourself doing better on campaigns than you're used to. All right, so I did want to mention, because I just mentioned the support aircraft and the squadron assets. So part of this game that they add in differences, and that's why I said I would talk about some of the differences between other leader games and Fulcrum Leader. So there are these GCIs, as I mentioned earlier multiple times now. Each of the GCIs, you're going to start off with an average one. It does not come into play in your squadron. You don't have to spend extra SOs, nothing like that. And there's 3 different ones. So you start off with the average, and then depending on if something gets destroyed by, I think there's one target that destroys them. They'll give you different bonuses. And what I mean by that is you'll have them in play, you'll select it, it'll go on the mission with you basically. If you watch my playthroughs, I have it like right here. They'll have, generally speaking, situational awareness counters, which those allow your aircraft to conduct extra attacks in the either the fast or slow step of a turn. And then they're going to give you, in this one, for instance, the Bagram air-to-ground bonus of +1. The Finno air-to-air bonus, a +1, and an ECM bonus of +1, which, if your aircraft has built-in ECM, or if it's carrying an ECM pod, it's going to help you, right, to avoid enemy attacks from bandits or sites. Air-to-air plus for the other one as well. So you see those are already a plus. So those things you already have. You have as part of your squadron, part of your campaign, and you will have one with you at all times, unless it's destroyed by that one single target that destroys them. There's also things like support aircraft. So A-50 Mainstay. You pay to have him, and then he gives you ignore advance and an A+, and an air-to-air bonus +1. He also comes with 2 situational awareness markers. Again, those are very valuable because your pilots, which are generally all slow, you're going to get some then to be able to move fast. You're going to be able to move and conduct their attacks before, not move, it's just attack. They're going to be able to attack before the enemy sites and bandits, so before the NATO forces get to attack. You have things like this Yak 28PP Brewer, which those are special abilities. They have the name here, Fasol, Buket, Serena. It causes them much stress to use. Those are special abilities that, again, are going to change how, and there's different versions of them that give different abilities. There is T-26 Moss, very, very similar to the very similar to the, I'm thinking of here, the A-50 Mainstay. So again, you're seeing different squadron assets, different support aircraft. Also, all right, so then besides those, A-50 Mainstay, T-26 Moss, you're going to have things like these SQAs or squadron assets, different versions of the Foxbat that provide different abilities. You pay for them once, they fly just once on that mission, and then they're done. +1 to hit when attacking dispersed targets, or during the extended range weapons phase, attack up to 4 radar sites at any range. You're going to roll to see how many hits. +1 to hit when attacking radar sites in the center area. Or this Su-25 strike, right? So the Su-25 Frogfoot. You pay this cost, you have a strike with an Su-25 Frogfoot. Ignore your dispersed for 1 turn during the over target phase. Roll a 1d10 to attack that target. Causes X number of hits depending on what you roll. So as you can see, my point is the base difficulty seems all right, maybe a little easier, and you start adding in all the special abilities, the bonuses to your air-to-air, to air-to-ground, and suddenly you're whooping butt. Go ahead and watch both my playthroughs to see examples of me stomping the NATO allies. Okay, that's it for my cons. Let's talk about the pros, and there's a bunch of them. First off, the amount of content you get in the core box is wild. I don't even want to get them all out because there's so many of them, but over 300 cards, over 700 counters, and they're all used as part of 10 different campaigns that you can select from. And here's something I even forget to mention in the overview, something this game adds in. It's just chrome fluff. It doesn't, add anything to the gameplay per se, but it does make it feel a little bit better. Which is, it has this hanger player aid sheet, right? Put this down, you can put your aircraft ready to go, shaken, unfit, damage, store munitions in here, Fulcrum Leader squadron control sheet. So just a fun little thing. But that's another example of, the stuff you get, the content you get, the variety of stuff you get. There is, ironically, a lot of pre-MiG-29 Fulcrum content, but plenty includes the MiG-29 and later, don't worry. And they aren't solely focused on Europe, right? The core box gives you a couple campaigns in Afghanistan, East Asia, and also back to Europe. This is another leader game stuffed with content, something we're becoming spoiled by thanks to DBG. Second, if you want to explore more campaigns with more aircraft and weapons, and why wouldn't you, there are 7 expansions from Fulcrum Leader. They range from early Warsaw Pact to adding naval aviation to new mechanisms involving interceptor campaigns, which, as most of us know, intercepting American and NATO bombers was a huge focus and priority of the Soviet Union in the Cold War. Third, the game's theme and setting are simply dripping off every component. Thankfully, not literally. Seriously though, from the tactical display to the pilot cards, the campaign sheets, the squadron control sheet they included, the game screams Soviet-era aviation. The weapon counters, they're standardized at this point, so they feel the most generic. But I also appreciate they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. If you played a leader game before, you know how to read the pilot cards and the weapon counters, and you'll be able to sit down and play. You're just going to incorporate the changes to the system and the game. Fourth, I love the additions that do help make the game unique. The Zampolit, aka political officer, with its separate card deck, the squadron assets you can purchase for missions, as one-offs, the support aircraft. Those are just a bunch of my favorite aspects of the game. They're new to the leader system, but they fit right in. And I feel like every leader game going forward should have the optional squadron assets available and anything else that maybe fits right into the game and system. All right, that's it for my pros and cons. Let's end with my final thoughts. Fulcrum Leader is the epitome of a leader game. Chock full of content, dripping with theme, light on the simulation, but heavy on the action, with a sneaky amount of team, or in this case, squadron management. Some rules, ambiguities, and errata, and nearly endless replayability. Oh, and did I mention the 7 expansions, and probably more in the future? I've seen people asking, does Fulcrum Leader redefine the Leader series, or will it change your mind if you don't like the gameplay of a leader game? Well, no. It's evolutionary, not revolutionary. The addition of a political officer along with a loyalty track, squadron assets which you can choose outside of your normal squadron, and the cleaning up of the overall sequence of play are all appreciated and welcome. Kudos to Benjamin Chee and Doug Glover. They have both put their fingerprints on the Leader series, and I, for one, am very glad for their contribution. Fulcrum Leader won't change your mind if you don't enjoy the system or its more arcadey aspects, and that's perfectly valid. However, I can easily recommend Fulcrum Leader if you already like leader games, if you're interested in the theme of Fulcrum Leader, or if you've never played a leader game and aren't sure where to jump in. With the amount of content in Fulcrum Leader, combined with the strong setting and theme, you will have dozens of hours of solitaire wargaming ahead of you. At the end of my reviews, I like to offer a reading recommendation. In the case of Fulcrum Leader, I have several, depending on what type of book interests you. Starting with fiction, there's of course Red Storm Rising from Tom Clancy. While some parts were guesses by Clancy that turned out to not be accurate, I'm looking at you, F-19, the overall book, it's a fantastic novel of a Cold War gone hot in the 80s and keeping it to conventional forces and not going nuclear. For nonfiction, I have a couple books for you guys. One is Foxbat Tales, the MiG-25 in Combat by Mike Gardia. The book focuses almost entirely on the MiG-25, but it's still a really interesting look into the development of the MiG-25, which tells you a lot about that time frame in the Soviet Union, along with descriptions of the MiG-25's operation and its performance in combat throughout multiple theaters and wars. And there's some comparisons with other Soviet aircraft, the ones that you will see active in this game. And the last book, yes, you get three for one here, 3 for the price of 1. The last book I want to recommend is The Soviet-Afghan War, 1979 through 89 by Gregory Barnes. This is also a shorter book and doesn't focus solely on the air war at all, but it instead gives you a view of a horrific Cold War era conflict from the perspective of both sides. Any of the above are going to put you in the mood to wargame either real Cold War conflicts that did occur or Cold War gone hot and the start of World War III. Thank you to everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, I'd love to think I earned your subscription. Please let me know what you think of my video and this game in the comments below. And until next time, everyone, later.